Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Atomic habits.
Yeah, it's all about how tiny changes can make a huge difference in your life.
I like that.
So, are you ready to unlock the power of small habits?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. So, Atomic Habits basically says that, little hinges swing big doors.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like those small everyday actions, they can really add up to massive results over time.
It's kind of like compound interest, you know?
Yeah, like compound interest.
You start with a small investment, and if you're patient, it can grow exponentially.
It's like that story about the guy who bought a pizza with Bitcoin years ago and then forgot about it.
Oh, yeah, and then it ended up being worth millions.
Exactly.
But here, instead of money, we're talking about the impact of your daily habits.
Right, those small actions that we do day in and day out.
Exactly. Like, even a 1% improvement each day can make you 37 times better by the end of the year.
37 times? That's wild.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But the opposite is true, too.
Oh, right. If you, let things slide.
A 1% decline each day, that can have a seriously negative impact.
Oof. I don't even want to think about that.
Better to focus on the positive. Right.
For sure. So, think about something small that you do every day.
Okay.
It could be anything, like scrolling through social media.
Guilty as charged.
Or, grabbing takeout for lunch instead of making something healthy.
Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Now, imagine doing that same thing every day for a year or 5 years or even 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, the impact really adds up.
Right. Are those actions helping you become the person you want to be?
That's a good question to ask yourself.
It is. Are you making deposits towards your goals, or are you accidentally withdrawing?
I like that. Deposits and withdrawals.
Yeah, it's all about being mindful of those small choices.
Absolutely. It all adds up.
Like when I first started running, I was terrible.
We all start somewhere.
I could barely run around the block, but I kept doing it, just a few minutes each day.
Consistency is key.
Totally. And you know what? After a while, I was running miles without even thinking about it.
That's the power of small wins. They build momentum.
They really do. And speaking of small changes leading to big results, there's this amazing story in the book about the British cycling team.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
So for years, they were totally average.
And not exactly winning any medals.
Right. But then suddenly they started dominating.
Like they found some secret formula.
It's crazy. It turns out their secret weapon wasn't some fancy training technique. It was this philosophy called marginal gains.
Marginal gains, huh?
Yeah, they focused on making tiny 1% improvements in every single area.
Everything.
Everything. Like the aerodynamics of their bikes, the riders' sleep schedules, even the most effective hand washing techniques to avoid getting sick.
Wow. They really thought of everything.
They did. And get this, it actually worked.
Those tiny tweaks really added up.
Big time. So, what's the takeaway for us?
Don't underestimate the power of small, consistent actions.
Exactly. Even if they seem insignificant on their own.
Over time, they can create a massive difference.
So true. All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another key idea from the book. Systems over goals.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
I know, right? It sounds kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Well, we're always told to set goals.
Yeah, goals are everything.
But the book argues that focusing on building systems is even more important.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, what's the difference between a goal and a system?
Well, a goal is like the destination you want to reach, right?
Okay, yeah.
But a system is the roadmap, the vehicle that gets you there.
Ah, I see. So it's about the process, not just the outcome.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the daily habits and routines that will help you achieve your goals.
So instead of just saying, I want to lose weight, you would create a system that involves, meal prepping healthy lunches.
Yes. Or scheduling regular workouts, or finding a workout buddy for accountability.
Ah, that makes so much sense. It takes the pressure off needing to be constantly motivated,
Yeah, instead of relying on willpower, you have this structure in place that keeps you moving forward.
It becomes automatic.
Exactly. Systems make success more likely, almost like you're setting yourself up on autopilot.
I love that. So how would this apply to, say, someone who wants to write a book?
Well, their goal might be to get a publishing deal.
Okay, that's a big goal.
But what systems do they have in place to actually write the book? Do they have a daily writing routine?
Ah, right, the actual work that goes into it.
Exactly. A system for overcoming writer's block. A process for getting feedback and editing.
So even if that publishing deal doesn't come through right away, they've still developed those crucial skills and habits?
Absolutely. And those systems, those daily practices, ultimately shape them as a writer.
regardless of external validation.
Exactly. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Okay, I'm totally on board with the systems approach. Now, let's talk about these atomic habits themselves.
Right, let's break it down.
What exactly are they?
Think of them as the building blocks of those larger systems we were just talking about.
Okay, I'm listening.
Atomic habits are tiny changes, almost ridiculously small, that can lead to remarkable results over time.
Small but mighty, huh?
Exactly. And that's the key. They're small enough to be manageable, so you're more likely to stick with them.
So instead of trying to completely overhaul your diet, you might start by just swapping soda for water.
Perfect example. Or instead of aiming for an hour at the gym, commit to just 5 minutes of exercise.
Okay, so it's about building that base, that consistency,
Exactly. And then you gradually expand from there.
like that snowball effect.
I like that analogy. It starts small, but it gains momentum as it rolls.
This is giving me so many ideas. All right, let's dive into another fascinating aspect, the role of identity.
Ah, yes, this is a crucial part of the book.
It's like mind-blowing to think that our habits actually shape who we are.
It's not just about doing the thing, it's about becoming the kind of person who does that thing.
So if I want to be a morning person, but I hit the snooze button every morning,
I think I see where you're going with this.
I'm actually reinforcing the identity of someone who struggles to get up on time.
You're sending mixed signals to your brain.
Right. So how do I bridge that gap?
You got to start acting in accordance with your desired identity.
Even if it feels awkward or uncomfortable at first.
Exactly. It's about rewiring your brain, creating those new associations.
So even if I don't feel like a morning person, I should start acting like one.
That's the idea. Set that alarm, get out of bed when it goes off, and eventually it'll become more natural.
It's like hacking our own brains.
In a way, yes. You're taking control of your habits and shaping your self-perception.
Wow, this is powerful stuff. Okay, this is all so fascinating, but let's get practical for a second.
All right, let's talk implementation.
How do we actually put these atomic habits into practice? What are some tools or techniques we can use?
Well, one powerful technique is called implementation intentions.
Implementation intentions. Okay, tell me more.
It's basically creating a clear plan of when and where you'll perform a habit.
So instead of just vaguely saying, I'm going to meditate more,
Right, that's too vague.
you would say something like, if it's 7 a.m. on a weekday, I will meditate for 5 minutes in my living room.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of it.
It's like pre-programming your brain for success.
Exactly. You're not relying on willpower in the moment. You've already made the decision.
I love that. Okay, what about habit stacking? That one sounds interesting.
Habit stacking is all about leveraging the power of your existing routines.
Okay, so like using those habits that are already ingrained.
Exactly. We all have habits we do automatically, like brushing our teeth or making coffee.
Right, those things we don't even have to think about.
So the idea is to attach a new habit to one of those existing habits.
So like after I brush my teeth each morning, I'll do 5 push-ups.
That's it. You're using the strength of that existing habit to make it easier to adopt a new one.
It's like creating a chain reaction of positive actions.
Exactly. You're stacking those habits one on top of the other.
And speaking of our environment, the book also talks about how our surroundings can silently shape our behavior.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how powerful those subtle cues can be.
It's like our environment is constantly nudging us in one direction or another.
There's a fascinating study from Massachusetts General Hospital.
Oh, tell me about it.
They simply rearranged the cafeteria, made some subtle changes to where they placed food and drinks.
Interesting. And what happened?
People started making healthier choices just because of how the food was arranged.
Wow, really?
They saw a huge drop in soda consumption and an increase in water consumption.
Just by making healthy options more visible and accessible.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that we're not always in control of our choices.
Sometimes our environment is secretly influencing us.
It's about designing our surroundings for success.
So true. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. From the power of small changes to the importance of systems.
And how our environment can influence our behavior.
It's a lot to digest, but I think it's all incredibly valuable.
I agree, and we're just getting started.
Oh, there's so much more to explore.
When we come back, we'll delve deeper into the surprising secrets to self-control and how to manage those pesky temptations that seem to derail us all.
Oh yeah, those temptations. We all know them.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we were talking about how our surroundings can secretly influence our choices.
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, like we think we're making decisions on our own.
But often our environment is like nudging us in a certain direction.
Totally. Like that saying, out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. So if you're trying to eat healthier, don't keep a jar of cookies on the counter.
Okay, makes sense. But what about self-control? Like those moments when temptation just hits you?
Ah, the struggle is real?
Like trying to resist those donuts in the break room?
Yeah. Willpower alone isn't always enough.
So it's not about being some sort of self-disciplined superhero.
Not really, no.
So what's the secret then?
Well, it's about understanding your own tendencies.
Okay, yeah, like knowing your weaknesses.
Exactly. And then designing your environment to minimize those temptations.
So it's more about being strategic than having iron will.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that. Like if you're easily distracted by social media, turn off notifications.
Exactly. Or use those website blocker apps.
Oh, yeah, those can be helpful.
It's about removing those triggers that lead to unwanted behaviors.
I've definitely been guilty of trying to resist temptation through sheer willpower, and it usually doesn't end well.
It's like trying to hold back a flood with a single sandbag.
Aha. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
It's much more effective to, redirect the flow of the river.
I see. So set yourself up for success.
Exactly. Make it easier to make good choices.
Now, what about temptation bundling? That sounds intriguing.
Ah, yes. Temptation bundling is a great strategy.
So what is it exactly?
It's basically pairing something you want to do
Okay.
with something you need to do.
Okay, I'm following.
So let's say you love watching your favorite TV show,
I'm listening.
but you know you should be exercising more.
I see where you're going with this.
You could make a rule that you only allow yourself to watch that show while you're on the treadmill.
Ah, that's brilliant. You're turning something you enjoy into a reward for doing something healthy.
Exactly. It makes it way more likely you'll stick to your workout routine.
Okay, but what about those moments when temptation just hits you out of nowhere?
That's where mindfulness comes in handy.
Mindfulness.
Yeah, there's this technique called surfing the urge.
Surfing the urge. That sounds kind of fun.
It is kind of like that. Imagine cravings as waves.
Okay.
They rise in intensity, peak, and then they subside.
Like waves crashing on the shore.
Exactly. Instead of trying to fight the wave, you learn to ride it out.
So instead of giving in to that urge to eat an entire bag of chips,
Which we've all been there.
I acknowledge the craving, but just observe it without judgment.
Yeah, and wait for it to pass.
So it's about recognizing that those urges are temporary.
Exactly. The more you practice this, the less power those urges will have over you.
Like developing mental muscles for dealing with temptation.
I love that analogy. You're becoming more resilient.
Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about this concept of supernormal stimuli.
Oh, this is a fascinating one.
It sounds kind of sci-fi.
It kind of is. Supernormal stimuli are exaggerated versions of normal things that our brains find irresistible.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about junk food, social media, video games.
Ah, I see, those things that are engineered to be super appealing.
Exactly. They trigger those pleasure centers in our brains like crazy.
And they're everywhere these days.
It's like our ancestors evolved to crave sugary foods because they were rare.
Makes sense.
But now we're surrounded by hyper-palatable sugary treats that hijack those cravings.
So it's like our brains haven't caught up to our modern environment.
Yeah, we're wired for a different world.
So how do we navigate this landscape of supernormal stimuli without, losing all self-control?
It takes awareness, self-regulation, and, as we talked about earlier, environment design.
So being mindful of those triggers and minimizing our exposure.
Exactly. Maybe instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media, you schedule specific times to check it.
Or swap that sugary snack for a piece of fruit.
Perfect examples. It's about making conscious choices, not letting those supernormal stimuli dictate our behavior.
This is all so eye-opening. It's like we're learning to hack our own brains.
In a way, yes. We're using our knowledge of how our minds work to create positive change.
I'm realizing that so much of this comes down to understanding our own tendencies, right?
Absolutely. Knowing yourself is a key part of the process.
It's about becoming the architect of your own habits, your own life.
I love that. You have the power to design the life you want.
This is so empowering. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have, from the power of small changes to the secret of self-control.
And how to manage those supernormal stimuli that are lurking everywhere.
It's a lot to take in, but I think it's all incredibly valuable.
I agree. And we still got more to discuss.
Oh, there's so much more to explore.
When we come back, we'll tie everything together and talk about some practical takeaways our listeners can start using today.
It's all about taking action and turning this knowledge into real-life results.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and my head is spinning with all these atomic habits ideas.
It's a lot to take in, right?
Yeah.
But it's all about taking action, not just thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm already picturing myself, Swapping those late night snacks for a good book.
That's the spirit.
Or pre-programming my coffee maker so I can wake up to a fresh pot.
Those are great small changes that can make a big difference.
Right. It's all about those little things adding up over time.
Like those 1% improvements we talked about.
Exactly. They might seem insignificant at first, but they create this ripple effect.
And one of the key takeaways for me is that shift from goals to systems.
Yeah, systems.
That's a game changer.
Goals give us direction, but systems are what actually get us there.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. I love that analogy. Building systems is like learning to fish.
You're equipping yourself with the tools and habits for lasting change.
Exactly. And remember those 4 laws of behavior change.
Oh, yeah. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
Those 4 laws are like a cheat sheet for habit change.
It's like we're taking all this knowledge and using it to design our own lives.
The power of identity, don't forget that.
Right. Our habits shape who we believe we are.
If you want to change your habits, you need to start changing your self-perception.
So instead of saying, I'm trying to be more organized,
Yeah, that's not very powerful.
I would say, I am an organized person.
And then start acting accordingly.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Exactly. Your brain will eventually catch up.
Okay, for our listeners who are feeling inspired, what are some actionable steps they can take right now?
Start small. Choose one habit you want to build or break.
One thing at a time.
Make it something manageable, something you could do every day.
Like, instead of aiming to write a whole novel, commit to writing just 1 page a day.
Exactly. And then use those 4 laws of behavior change to make that habit stick.
So set up cues, remove temptations, make the process enjoyable.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
Those little victories keep us motivated.
They really do. And remember, be patient with yourself. It's a journey.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Experiment with different strategies. Don't be afraid to ask for support.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into atomic habits.
It really has. It's amazing how much power we have to shape our own lives.
One small habit at a time.
And those small habits can lead to incredible results.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And to all our listeners, remember, you have the power to create the life you want.
Start small, stay consistent, and trust the process.
Until next time, keep learning, keep
Hey everyone,
growing,
welcome
and keep
back.
diving deep.
Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Atomic habits.
Yeah, it's all about how tiny changes can make a huge difference in your life.
I like that.
So are you ready to unlock the power of small habits?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. So Atomic Habits basically says that, like, little hinges swing big doors.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like those small everyday actions, they can really add up to massive results over time.
It's kind of like compound interest, you know?
Yeah, like compound interest.
You start with a small investment, and if you're patient, it can grow exponentially.
It's like that story about the guy who bought a pizza with Bitcoin years ago and then forgot about it.
Oh, yeah, and then it ended up being worth millions.
Exactly.
But here, instead of money, we're talking about the impact of your daily habits.
Right, those small